I'm going to talk about the city under threat. And if Britain is to be rich in the 21st century, if we're to enjoy a future which is one that, in a way, we deserve because of our history and our past, I think we need to specialise in those kinds of economic activity where we use our brains, where we need judgment, independence, responsibility, intelligence, and so on. Let the rest of the world use their hands doing routine things. We want to do things using brains, which are well paid. The areas that have been growing particularly rapidly in this 15-20-year period was actually financial services, the city. Roughly speaking, the exports have risen by about 15% a year. That was that compounding figure, compared with GDP of around about 5% a year. This is the one area in the last 15-20 years where Britain has been doing very well, and it's quite a sensible thing for us to be specialising in, because this is likely to be high value added, high incomes, and so on in the long run in the 21st century. This is the kind of thing we should be doing. The Lisbon Treaty is not quite finalised, but it appears to be pretty nearly finalised. And there's going to be now, I think, 50 new areas in which qualified majority voting applies, and the nations can't block whatever comes up from the Commission and goes through the European Parliament. So we don't set the rules. We don't set the rules in a whole mass of areas that affect the activities in which we have been very successful, including financial services, including the City of London. Well, in my view, while we remain in the European Union, it will be very difficult for Britain to remain the world's leading centre for international financial services, international business services more generally, including law, accountancy, and so on. A membership of the European Union there may appear to be good reasons for it. It may have been something we did actually for economic reasons to make our nation more prosperous. In the end, it's turned out to be a balance. This is not, we don't want to link up our economy and our successful industries with the European Union so that we can't control the rules under which these businesses operate in the 21st century. We want to be rich and successful, we want to be the gaffers of the world economy in the 21st century, we must get out of the European Union. Thank you very much.
I'm not very good with microphones. Is it all right if I talk from here? Thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to have any kind of audience. We don't often get people coming to listen to us as MEPs, because MEPs are not generally the most popular people in Britain. And you don't have to rush forward and contradict me when I say that. I've got used to this over the years. And I have to say, it's a real pleasure to be back there as a re-elected MEP. There's nothing like fighting an election to remind you of the people you represent. And I have to say, in my own patch in South East England, there is some very remarkable wildlife. I will never forget the farmer whom I canvassed in the Isle of Wight in this recent poll, who was very alarmed because he had this great saga about he'd spent a fortune on some seagull, prize pedigree, which apparently just wouldn't do the business. Put it with all of his heifers, it wouldn't serve any of them. And then, online, he had discovered a wonderful drug. And when he mixed it into the feed, bingo, the bull couldn't get enough of it, all the heifers were in calf, he was absolutely delighted, and he was very alarmed to hear that the European Union was going to ban this substance because it might go into the European food chain. And I said, well, I'll look into that for you, sir. What's it called? He said, I can't exactly tell you what it's called, but I can tell you that it tastes of aniseed. I knocked on a door in Ashford that was answered by a little boy who must have been all about 6 years old. He was wearing a sort of smoking jacket that was hanging loosely from his shoulders. In one hand he had a balloon of brandy about the size of a little head that he was swirling round. And in the other he had sausage-like and smouldering, slowly sealing with what looked like a very expensive Cuban cigar. Well, as you do when you're canvassing, I leaned down and I said, are your parents at home? And he said, does it effing look as though my parents are at home? So, it is a real pleasure to be here. It is always a delight for me to attend meetings of as an 18-year-old, even before I was an undergraduate, in my gap year. And I would like to take a few moments to thank all the people who have kept the fight going over those years. Not only Barry and Robert, but all of their predecessors, who have achieved the most extraordinary intellectual victory, although we have, alas, failed totally to capitalise on it in terms of public policy. You think back to where the debate was when the Bruges Group was founded, and where it is now. It's difficult to think of an example in public affairs where one side has so thoroughly won the argument. Tim Congdon just spoke about the progressive centralisation of financial markets and economic regulation. Almost with every day that passes, there are new regulations in the field of alternative investment management, fund management in terms of insurance, equity, hedge funds and so on. So let's look for a moment, not just at the European Union that we belong to today, but at the European Union that we will belong to tomorrow. And again, you have to use our imagination to do this. This doesn't require some extraordinary flight of fancy, because it's written down in the Lisbon Treaty. And you don't need to read the Lisbon Treaty. I've done it so that you don't have to. I'm one of the handful of people with matchsticks propping up his eyelids who actually sat down and read the wretched thing. And let me put it to you like this. As a way of describing why this is so important. I don't know about you. I find that I've been arguing about this treaty for so long, that it's almost, for a ridiculous moment there, I was about to say I'm almost becoming bored of it. Now that would of course be ridiculous, but I can forgive any of my constituents who are becoming bored. I think if I have any claim to fame, it was that I was the first person to call for a referendum on the European Constitution, as it was called before by this grisly act of necromancy it was resurrected in the form of the Lisbon Treaty. That was in 2001. I would not have dreamed it possible that I'd now be standing here in late 2009 having the same arguments about the need for a referendum on the same Richard text. We are not against other countries coming together, far from it. I think there are benefits to us in having a peaceful and united outlook on our doorstep. But our national conditions are not identical to those of every other country. So I'll leave you with the great man's words. We have our own dreams and our own tasks. We are with Europe, but not of it. We are linked, but not combined. We are interested and associated, but not absorbed. And should European statesmen address us in the words that were used of old, "Shall I speak for thee to the king or the captain of the host?" we should reply with the Shunammite woman, "Nay, sir, for we dwell among our